There is one question almost no one wants to ask out loud. If every great empire in the Bible eventually fell, if Egypt fell, if Babylon fell, if Rome fell, then what makes us think Americans are different? For centuries, powerful nations have believed they were chosen, untouchable, destined to lead history forever. But the Bible tells a very uncomfortable story. It tells us that strength, wealth, military dominance, and global influence are not signs of permanence. They are often signs that a nation is entering its most dangerous phase. So here is the real question. Is America in Bible prophecy? Or is it simply the next empire in the pattern? Stay with me until the end, because by the time this video is over, you will see the exact biblical blueprint for an empire's collapse and, exactly, where we are on that timeline right now. Let's not approach this emotionally. Let's approach it biblically. The Bible rarely names modern nations the way we want it to, but it gives something far more powerful than names. It gives patterns, and if you study the patterns of power carefully, they are almost terrifying. In the book of Daniel, King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon has a dream. He sees a giant statue made of different metals: gold, silver, bronze, iron, and iron mixed with clay. Each section represents a successive world: empire, Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome. What is important is not just the sequence, it is the absolute certainty. Every empire rises, every empire dominates, and every single one falls. And not one of them believed it would. Babylon thought its walls were too strong. In Daniel 4, Nebuchadnezzar boasts, "Is not this great Babylon, that I have built by my mighty power?" Within that very same chapter, his mind is shattered, and his power is stripped from him. The pattern is clear. Pride always comes right before the collapse. Now consider this. What are the characteristics of a dominant empire in Scripture? Wealth, military strength, global trade, cultural export, political dominance. In Revelation 18, Babylon isn't just a city. It is described as the center of a global economic system. The merchants of the earth grew rich through her extreme wealth. But then comes the shock. Revelation 18:10 says, "Alas, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come." 1 hour. The pattern in Scripture is not a slow, gentle decline. It is a sudden, shocking exposure. And here is where it becomes deeply uncomfortable. The Bible shows that the greatest threat to a nation is never foreign enemies. It is internal moral decay. In Isaiah 5, God says, "Woe unto them that call evil good, and good evil." When a society begins redefining truth, redefining justice, and redefining biology, the Bible marks that as the final warning stage. Romans 1 describes this exact progression. It says people knew God, but glorified him not as God. Notice the precise order of collapse. Spiritual rejection comes first. Intellectual confusion follows. Moral breakdown follows that. And then, total instability. But moral decay rarely happens in silence. It happens while the people are cheering. History calls it bread and circuses. When the Roman Empire was rotting from the inside out, the government provided free food and endless gladiator games. The goal was simple: distract the masses from the collapse. The Bible warned about this exact phase of societal death long before Rome existed. In the book of Amos, the prophet confronts a wealthy, comfortable nation right before its destruction. Amos 6 warns, "You put off the day of disaster. You lounge on your beds of ivory, you strum away on your harps, but you do not grieve over the ruin." An empire in its final stages distracts itself to death. It obsesses over entertainment, celebrities, and trivial debates, while its foundation crumbles. Do we see that pattern today? We have unlimited access to amusement, yet unprecedented levels of anxiety. We are the most entertained generation in human history, and yet the most deeply fractured. Throughout Scripture, nations do not fall because they lack firepower. They fall because they lose moral clarity. The Roman Empire was unmatched militarily, yet it fractured internally long before barbarian enemies finished the job. In Daniel 7, 4 terrifying beasts rise from the sea. They are dominant, but they are temporary. Every human empire has an expiration date. So, let's look in the mirror. Is America directly named in prophecy? Perhaps not. But look at the biblical conditions of a falling empire. Is there pride? Is there moral confusion? Is there extreme polarization? Jesus said in Mark 3, "If a kingdom be divided against itself, that kingdom cannot stand." A deeply divided nation may look heavily armed on the outside, but internally, it is brittle glass. But our modern pride isn't just in our wealth, it is in our intelligence. We suffer from the exact same arrogance as the builders in Genesis 11, the Tower of Babel. What was their rallying cry? Come, let us build ourselves a city, with a tower that reaches to the heavens, so that we may make a name for ourselves. It was the ultimate belief that human innovation could outgrow the need for God. Today, we don't build towers of brick. We build them with code, with artificial intelligence, with digital empires. We believe our algorithms and our scientific advancements make us immune to ancient consequences, but God's response to technological arrogance has never changed. Listen to the chilling words of the prophet Obadiah, speaking to an unassailable nation built high in the cliffs. The pride of your heart has deceived you. You who live in the clefts of the rocks. You who say to yourself, who can bring me down to the ground? And then, the verdict, though you soar like the eagle and make your nest among the stars, from there I will bring you down, declares the Lord. No amount of technology can save a nation that has lost its soul. The Bible warns about trusting the illusion of military strength. Psalm 20 says, some trust in chariots, and some in horses, but we will remember the name of the Lord. Today, we would call those chariots defense systems, fleets, and nuclear arsenals. When a nation trusts its weapons more than its righteousness, the countdown begins. But here is the twist. Prophecy is not fatalistic. It is conditional. In Jeremiah 18, God explains that if he declares judgment on a nation, but that nation turns from evil, he will relent. Nations are judged not by their size, but by their alignment. The real question is not, is America Babylon? The real question is, does America currently reflect the exact biblical pattern of empires right before they collapse? Because if it does, the warning applies. Healing requires humility. Egypt hardened its heart, Babylon glorified itself, and collapse followed. So, what happens to the faithful when the statue starts to crack? Because if you are watching this, you might be feeling a sense of dread. If the pattern holds, what happens to us? Here is the most beautiful, hidden pattern in all of Scripture. God never lets an empire fall without securing a remnant. Daniel was taken captive, yet he thrived and ruled inside Babylon. Joseph was sold into slavery, yet he preserved life inside Egypt. The early church was fiercely persecuted, yet they multiplied inside the Roman Empire. God does not need America or any superpower to protect his people. He is perfectly capable of sustaining his remnant in the middle of a collapse. Your job is not to panic. Your job is to prepare. Economic control and moral corruption always rise together at the end. History confirms it. The more powerful a nation becomes, the more temptation it faces to centralize control and replace truth with loyalty to power. And collapse rarely feels like collapse at first. It feels like confidence. It feels like cultural certainty. Until it does ends. The real warning of Scripture is not that a specific flag will fall. It is that every empire built on human pride eventually does. So perhaps the question is not, is America in prophecy? Perhaps the question is, where are we in the pattern? Because once you understand the pattern, you stop trusting the statue, and you start looking for the stone. If you want to understand exactly what that stone is, the unshakable kingdom that replaces all of these empires, you need to watch this video next. Click right here to discover the final kingdom of Daniel's prophecy. I'll see you there.